I'm back today with some more recommendations for horror films on Shudder. We have some newer ones and we have some ones that are a little bit older but are quite underrated. I've chosen 6 to talk about today in this video, so let's get into it with a new release, and that is The Ugly Stepsister. We follow 2 stepsisters. They both long to become princesses as they compete to catch the eye of the prince. One of the sisters, Elvira, feels kind of insignificant next to her beautiful sister. She lets her intrusive thoughts get to her and begins to change her appearance with surgery and other grotesque methods. It's sad because she isn't ugly anyway, but I feel like this has much more of a deeper meaning, commenting on topics like beauty standards and comparing ourselves to others. This is a dark and twisted take on the fairy tale story Cinderella. We don't actually have Cinderella in this one, we just have these 2 stepsisters. So it doesn't really follow the typical story of Cinderella, but it does have some similarities, and it kind of gives us more of a deep dive into the stepsisters, maybe in another universe. It's a body horror done really well. Expect some scenes that are really hard to watch. Honestly, there were some scenes that I did have to look away. Mainly towards the end, there is some things that are just so gross and so cringeworthy. It's weird to see a horror film that has this much gore and grotesque elements, but also be this beautiful and have this massive contrast with the kind of fairy tale feel to some of it. You wouldn't think that it would work because they are literally opposite aesthetics, but I think that is what makes it work and makes it so unique and interesting. It is so sad to see everything that this girl goes through to be seen as beautiful and actually to believe in herself. This is kind of a timepiecey horror, which isn't always my favourite, but the second half of the film is what really won me over. There is one scene where all the girls are going to a ball. This is where they're trying to impress the prince and get him to choose them, but this scene is almost dreamlike. 100% my favourite part of the film. It's so whimsical and magical. The shots are done so beautifully. The colours look really soft and it just teleports you back in time. I'm actually obsessed with the wardrobe design, especially the stepsister's green dress that matches her green eyeshadow. It's so unique and it really makes her stand out. I did watch the trailer for this film and they kind of made it out to kind of look like The Substance, which I do understand they are both body horror films, but they are both so different. I'm sure this was just a marketing thing because obviously The Substance was such a big film, kind of have the same underlying topics of beauty standards and the pressures that are put onto women. I also think I was a bit surprised that there were some slower elements to this film because the trailer does make it look go. Obviously they're only going to show the good bits in the trailer and like the most action-packed parts, but I do feel like the trailer that I watched particularly did feel a little bit deceiving. It definitely took me a little while to get into this film. There were moments at the beginning where it kind of lost me a little bit. So much gross, disgusting, gory body horror in the second half, and towards the ending it is just absolutely insane. This is definitely one of my favourite newer releases on Shudder, maybe my favourite Shudder release from this year so far. Next up we have a folk horror called Fréwaka. A care worker accepts a new job looking after a lady who is terrified of leaving her house or letting anybody in. The lady believes that there are supernatural entities out to get her for a second time because she says that this also happened before. So I did find the pacing to be a little bit slow for my liking and it felt a little bit off at times, but the vibe is much more of a slower build up to a impactful ending. I do think some other films have done similar but better, but this was still a really enjoyable watch. It has some really creepy and unusual imagery, and the costume design towards the end was something that I really appreciated. It's definitely something that made this film stand out more. You can tell from the poster and from the description that this is a folky horror film, but that mainly comes in stronger towards the end. We do get little bits here and there, but for the most part it does feel kind of more drama-y, which does remind me of 2 films that I really love that do a similar thing, The Ritual and Kill List. 2 incredible films, definitely on another level from this film, but because I love those films so much, it gave me hints of similarities to them that definitely added to my overall experience. I definitely enjoyed this more as it went on. It is one that I honestly had no clue where it was going to go. If you enjoy folky slow burns, then definitely give this one a go. Next is 825 Forest Road. Following a tragedy in the family, Chuck, his wife and her younger sister decide to start over with a fresh start in a new home. But not long after they've moved, they find out that their town has a haunting, sinister history. scary. So in my opinion, this is a good mid film. I don't think it's the best, but I really enjoyed it for a bad film, if that makes any sense. There are so many cheesy moments that will make you roll your eyes, but there is also some really unique elements, especially like how the film is split into different parts, which are different characters' perspectives. That's not something we get to see too often. I actually started watching this at night and had to turn it off because it was creeping me out, and I had to watch it in the daytime. There are some really eerie moments from the beginning. Definitely the parts that are the scariest are the parts where we see less, where we just see like glimpses of things and the rest is left up to our imagination. But I feel like that is the case with a lot of horror films, especially paranormal films. As the film went on, it did get a lot less scary because we kind of saw a lot of stuff. I kind of knew what to expect, and I knew it had more of a cheesy vibe. The horror really lies within the paranormal elements. Creepy things going on in the background. One minute something will be there, the next minute it won't. I wouldn't recommend this to everyone because I don't think it's a great film, but if you are somebody who enjoys bad horror films, then I would definitely say stick it on because it is a lot of fun. Also a content warning because there are some darker themes, but I feel like the execution made them feel less intense. I do unfortunately feel like this may fall in the horror graveyard. It doesn't really have that much that stands out. Yes, it's good as like a cheesy watch in the background, but I just can't really see this one being a film that people talk about in the future. Next is a film that came out a few years ago and I really enjoyed this one, and that is Good Boy. After talking on a dating app, Sigrid decides to meet Christopher in real life and they hit it off. The only thing is, when she goes back to his place, she realizes that he lives with Frank, a man who constantly lives and acts like a dog. I did think, because of how wacky the concept was, that maybe there wouldn't be that much depth and that the plot would lack a little bit, but I was proven wrong. All of the characters are really interesting, from when Sigrid meets Frank and Christian just acts like it's completely normal. Like, he doesn't even say anything, he just acts like she's meeting his dog, although it's his roommate. It's just really confusing and strange, but I love a strange, unusual concept, so that's why I really enjoyed this film. Something bizarre always sparks my interest. It has kind of a comedy element to it because of course, it is so over the top. It's kind of like shock value comedy where things are just so extreme or really silly that it just makes you want to laugh. I was gripped throughout this whole film, but the last third of the film is what really sold it to me. It kind of really shifted genres from just being this like wacky, kind of strange, I don't even know if you would call it horror, thriller maybe, but it definitely shifted to more of a psychological horror film towards the end. I love films that go off track and aren't afraid to be weird. I'm a big fan of humans as animals films. I don't think that's the best way to put it, but for example, some of my favourite films are Tusk and The Fly. Although this one doesn't have a transformation in it, I think I just like the oddness of it all. The next film is Deadstream. After being cancelled, a live streamer tries to win back his audience by live streaming an overnight stay in a haunted house that he decides to break into and explore. It's not long before he regrets this decision when he seemingly annoys a vengeful spirit. This has a very similar vibe to Evil Dead 2 with the over-the-top wackiness and slapstick comedy. You kind of go through an emotional roller coaster with all different feelings in this film. One minute you're laughing, the next you're hiding behind your blanket because there are some really creepy moments, or you're jumping out of your skin at some of the terrifying moments. Some of the jump scares in this film get me every time. The main character isn't likable at all. He comes across very self-centered and ignorant, focused desperately on getting views and to gain back his audience on social media. Because he isn't very likable, it obviously means that we aren't really rooting for him that much if anything happens to him. But because this is found footage, it almost feels like we are there or involved somehow, so it works. I usually do have a bit of a problem when I can't relate or when I dislike a character, because it just makes me not really care what's happening. But in this case, you do stay super invested because there is so much happening. It's also hilarious as well as being really scary. There are some gross moments as well as the gore. For me, this is a kind of strange comfort watch, but not as much as the next film, which is Psycho Goreman. Two preteen siblings accidentally resurrect an ancient alien overlord when they find a magical amulet. This lets them have complete power and control over him as long as it's in their hands. They name the overlord Psycho Goreman, or PG for short. We follow their journey, getting to know each other and fighting off intergalactic assassins. This is the ultimate silly, fun, goofy time. It's very over the top, but in the best way possible. This isn't a new release, this one actually came out in 2020. The alien creature designs are incredible, so creative. They all have really interesting, distinct things about them. I love the look of Psycho Goreman. The characters, the script, and how this film looks all goes really hand in hand. It's reminiscent of 80s horror films like Killer Clowns from Outer Space. The bright and bold colours match the personalities of the characters, as we have some strong leads with the two siblings, Mimi and Luke, especially Mimi, as she is incredibly outspoken. Some favourite moments of mine are just the ones where we get to see her relationship with Psycho Goreman and their dialogue. He's like a big scary ancient alien overlord and she's just a small little girl, but she's definitely not afraid to order him about and show him who's boss. The contrast of them all hanging out is comical in itself, and then you see what they get up to, playing sports, dressing up, and just causing all sorts of mayhem. There's a lot of wholesome moments too. This is a feel-good horror film because it is really quite sweet and heavy on the comedy as well. So there are all of my recommendations for today. Do let me know if you've watched any of these and what you thought of them. If you've watched a few, then which one is your favourite? I have a massive list of recommendations for Shudder, so definitely let me know if you would like more videos like this, or if there's another streaming platform that you would like some recommendations from. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in another one soon.